So hey guys, this is your favorite fictional vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto awakens some secret bloodline and Zanpakuto power. But before we start, remember to subscribe and like this video. Now let's start. That went on for miles inside of Kusagaku. A bunch of bandits and some missing nin from various villages were laughing, drinking, and chatting about how they raided a small village, killing men, children and women alike. In the camp they had captured women who were ages 14 to 35 and imprisoned in cages as a sort of victory trophy. They were whimpering and crying because they knew that with being captured by bandits and missing nin, they would plan on raping them and doing unspeakable things to them. Just then all of the mentioned bandits and missing nin got up and approached the cages looking like animals on the hunt with bottles of sake swinging around, showing just how drunk they were. Terry Fying the woman and hoping for a miracle to drop down. Ha ha ha, look at them crying and whimpering. One bandit said with a malicious smile on his face as some women ducked their heads away scared to death. Another bandit stepped forward with a smirk on his face. Ha ha ha, it just makes it all the more fun. Well, then, a missing nin with a slashed Iwagakure headband. Why are we waiting? He saw it as he unlocked a cage and pulled a woman out who looked to be in her 20s, kicking and screaming the whole time only for the missing nin to slap her. Shut it bitch, soon you'll be screaming for a different reason. He said with insane laughter at the end with everyone else joining in. Before anyone could do anything a voice called out through the forest. Raiden. Byakurai. Lightning really. Ace. Pale lightning, a large streak of condensed yellow lightning burst from the behind the trees and struck the missing nin in the side of the head killing the man instantly, allowing the woman to drop down and scramble back. You people disgust me. Humans like you should never exist. Everyone looked to the side to see a figure that appeared as an 18-year-old young man. He stood at an impressive height of 6 feet. 2. He had blonde spiky hair with black highlights that stood up all over the place that flown down past his shoulder blades, much like Madara Uchiha's hairstyle looked like. His face as unblemished, not so much as a spot of dust on his tanned face that seemed to glow in the radiant sunlight that shone through all the many trees around him. He had dark onyx eyes that displayed some warmth in them but not as much as they used to. On his left ear he had an earring of what looked like a phoenix that dangled slightly on a very short chain. His face was set into a blank stare as if he was staring at nothing at all. Despite the fact he was staring at a bunch of rapists, murders and anything else that can be considered a crime with rage and hate. He wore steel-toed black combat bow. OT along with a pair of baggy black cargo pants with various extra pockets, a shuriken and kunai holster strapped to each leg due to becoming ambidextrous. He also had a utility belt with several chess on it along with scrolls for easier use. He wore a normal black t-shirt that had an upturned collar covering his neck. On top of that he wore a black sleeveless trench coat with crimson fire lick ing the bottom much like his father's own trench coat. Due to having no sleeves on it his t-shirt covered up his biceps only, however he did wear a pair of fingerless gloves which seemed perfect for fighting as they had metal plating fitted in. On the back of the trench he had the kanji for Shinku Senko, crimson flash, in gold stitching vertically. The trench coat's collar stood up covering his neck. Around his neck was also a beautiful silver chain necklace where it held a replica of a phoenix along with another beautiful necklace he had received from Tsunade Senju. And last but not least Orochimaru strapped to his left side in his utility belt showing off its beauty while also being perfectly placed for a quick draw. Orochimaru looks like a normal katana with the exception of the guard, which is in the shape of a 4-pointed bronze-colored star. Its hilt is light blue and sheath dark blue. The blade was also at about 1.4 meters long. This was Naruto Uzumaki, or as he is really called Naruto Uchiha Namikaze. However, this is not known to many people for obvious reasons. He was the son of Namikaze Minato the Yondaime Hokage and Uchiha Makoto, also unknown to a lot of people. See, what many people didn't know was that Fugaku Uchiha's wife had an affair with the Yondaime, as the Uchiha head was never in love with the woman. Instead she was a political wife forced into a marriage. Despite that she had to stay married to protect her children from the Uchiha clan, as well as those who wished to harm her sons. The only way he actually knew all of this was when he had met Itachi on his travels. At first he thought he was there to capture him for Akatsuki. So it came to quite a shock once Itachi revealed the truth about everything, opening Naruto's world to so many possibilities. Along with sadness that was soon to come. It was quite a shame no one ever looked up Naruto's family history, otherwise the council would shit themselves. What was even more ironic was that after Sasuke had killed Itachi, he was welcomed back in the village with open arms as if he had took a stroll in the forest for a few years. He never knew why Sasuke went back to Konoha though, and honestly he didn't care. Naruto only knew of all this as he had kept in contact with Jiraiya, who had, believe it or not, gone behind the council's back and trained him somewhat. However, he wasn't the only one. He had many senses that he was eternally grateful for. But Jiraiya was the person who was always there for him, as well as teaching him everything he knew, even going so far as to take him to Mt. Myobokuzen to learn the sage arts. Now that was something he loved to learn, especially with being in such a peaceful environment. Naruto had discovered that with having Kyuubi within him, it had given him control over the 5 main elements, and if he trained hard enough, sub-elements, something he could finally be grateful for from the Kyuubi. So with that knowledge he went and learnt as many jutsu he could to expand his jutsu repertoire for all the many different situations that can come up in a battle. Something else he had worked on had been combining his Rasengan with elements, and he had to DMIT. It was the hardest thing he had ever had to do before. Naruto had gone to Kumogakure to learn all about Raiden so that he could master it faster, while there had met his fellow Jinchuriki who had helped him with his training secrets up in the mountains out of people's way. Killer Bee was the Jinchuriki of the Hachibi no Kyogyu, and he had to say he thought of him as one of the greatest sensei ever. Despite his poor raping, he was able to get along with the dark-skinned male, as he always taught him what he needed and explained everything clearly for him so he didn't miss anything out. Yugito. Neither was the Jinchuriki of the Nibi no Bakeneko. At first she was a bit cold towards him, seeing as he was a stranger to her, but after some persuasion from Killer Bee she had started to talk to him a bit more slowly, eventually becoming friends. She had taught him a bit in Raiden and Kaden, seeing as they were her elements, while he too helped her in other areas which she was thankful for. While reigning with them, Killer Bee had introduced him to his 3 students. Karui was a beautiful woman in his eyes. He had learnt though that she was an extremely tough woman, something he has come to realize with all kunoichi he meets. She was also like the old him, how she always seemed to be cheerful, rash and spontaneous. Omoi, the only male on out of the 3 students, was someone he could get along with easily. He had somewhat reminded him of Shikamaru, only laid back instead of being, well, lazy. A funny thing about him was how he would always over-exaggerate about situations, causing Karui to left them all. He had said his goodbyes to them all, promising to see them again, but what shocked him was when Karui suddenly grabbed him and kissed him, shocking them all, before she walked off, leaving a confused Naruto. He had eventually ended up in Kurigakure to learn about Suiten Jutsu, seeing as that is where they specialize in that element. While there he had met the Mizukage and had found she was quite flirtatious with him. Something he didn't mind considering her beauty. However, despite how much he wanted to, he had told her nothing could happen. Yet, while she was disappointed, she understood clearly. That didn't stop her from leaving him with an eyeful though. Soon after that he ended up in Sunagakure, where he followed up on futon manipulation, as he knew all masters of the elements hailed from the great village. He progressed well in the art thanks to Gaara and Temari, who had felt like they owed the blonde young man for saving Gaara from the darkness. It was around the 3rd year when Jiraiya had shown up before he took him to Mt. Myobokuzen to learn the sage arts as well as expanding on his current jutsu. While there he had learnt much more and became a hell of a lot stronger thanks to the toads. He had also met many other shinobi that helped with his elemental training across the countries. Some of them started out as enemies, but using his charms he had won them over easily. When he turned 17, thought the Kyuubi had revealed to him that the fox was dying, as Naruto had almost absorbed all of his chakra faster than the seal had planned on to. In his parting he had named Naruto the new Kyuubi no Kitsune. Despite not having the fox anymore, he was still able to enter the transformations he would go through when the Kyuubi was within him, only this time the chakra did not hurt him but rather help him. It was however still hard to maintain all the time, as it was very strong chakra to take a hold of and maintain long enough. There had been one change in him that was completely noticeable, something that made Jiraiya so happy he cried with pride. Naruto had discovered the wonders of Ika. And now it was finally time to reveal himself once again. A bandit W. Ho was clearly drunk, laughed at the newcomer. Ho ho ho, look what we have here fellers, some punk kid wanting to play ninja. Je said, laughing more along with the bandits while the missing nin were Tting a bit scared at seeing the person shinobi came to fear when they saw the renowned Shinkusenko. Naruto chuckled and shook his head. You guys really need to pay attention to who you're talking to, he said, narrowing his eyes, and his hand gripped the hilt of Hyarinmaru tightly, prepared to start killing. One of the missing nin gulped fearfully and turned to his allies. We should let it go, this guy is the Shinkusenko. We don't stand a chance. His fellow missing nins gave hesitant nods while some of the less intelligent bandits laughed loudly. HA, as if this wannabe punk could EVH. His words were cut off as he started to spit out blood randomly. Looking down, he saw a silver katana stabbed through his heart from behind him. Everyone else started getting panicked as they watched blonde shinobi vanish from his spot and appearing behind the bandit, stabbing him in the chest like it was nothing. A cold steam started coming off of Naruto's katana when all of a sudden ice started to form over the bandit from the heart, causing him to turn into an ice statue. Naruto twisted Hyarinmaru and yanked it out, causing the former bandit to crack all the way from the point of origin at the heart before completely shattering into ice dust before blowing away in the wind as if he never stood there. Naruto suddenly turned around and shot forward, ice coming from his blade cutting down bandit and shinobi alike as if they were a mere flies on the wall. Screams filled the forest as heads rolled, limbs were lost, and half of those that were struck by Hyarinmaru were turned to ice and acting one by one as he cut the forces down. The area was soon covered in icicles and bits of snow from the dead bandits and missing nin that once stood against the force known as Shinkusenko, showing everyone why they should never screw him. Naruto sheathed Hyarinmaru securely and turned towards the cages where all of the women were looking at them in awe with small blushes on their faces at seeing their hero in action. Walking over to them, he unlocked all the cages, causing all the women to run over to Naruto, thanking him, hugging him, and even kissing him all over for freeing them from a fate worse than death. Naruto chuckled as he backed away slightly, looking at them all. Why don't I get you all back to your village so you can be with your loved ones? He said with a smile as they all nodded their head vigorously with giant smiles on their faces. Small village outside of Takigakure. Reaching the village, Naruto found all of the women's family, friends and loved ones were waiting at the gate for them. As soon as they laid eyes on the women, they immediately swarmed them, thanking the gods they had been returned to them before anything terrible could happen. Naruto watched the scene with a small smile on his face, glad he could reunite families with each other. Just as he was about to turn around and leave to get on his way, an elderly voice stopped him in his tracks. Wait a minute, young man. The male voice says. Naruto turns around to see a man who looked to be about 70, crouched over slightly holding an envelope in his hands, walking towards him. Wait, please take this money. It's for saving my daughter and everyone's loved one from those horrible bandits and shinobi. He says, but Naruto shakes his head and smiles. No thanks, old man. Keep your money, I didn't do it for that. Naruto explained, getting a look of shock and awe from him and the villagers. Are you sure? We were gonna pay for bringing them back. Didn't you do this for money? He asks, and Naruto's response was a shake of his head. No sir, I just did what I thought is right. Besides, if there's one thing I hate more than anything, it's bandits and missing nin who think they can do whatever the hell they like. And money right now is the least of my worries, use it for your own purpose. He said with a grin on his face. The man just blinks at Naruto for a while but then smiles back. Thank you so much, young man. Oh, where are my manners? My name is Momoji. We are forever in your debt for bringing the women back. We don't know what we would do if something had happened, he said, bowing his head in thankfulness while everyone else also bowed. Naruto simply chuckled and smiled. You're welcome, and if you have any more problems with bandits, look me up. Well, it's time for me to go, see ya, he says as his body started to turn into ice before shattering, leaving no sign of him being stood there. Konoha Hokage's office. Tsunade Senju was currently sat behind her office contemplating on the latest news she had gotten. Akatsuki had been sighted close to Takigakure, and the only reason she could think of them being there is the Jinchuriki they currently have protected, but she knew they would Wouldn't be able to stop the Akatsuki, so that is why standing in front of her were the Rookie 12 along with Kakashi Hatake, Kurenai Yuhi, Maeda Guy and Asuma Sarutobi all awaiting orders. Surprisingly, Sasuke Uchiha was also there. It would appear that after killing Itachi that he had realized he had no goal, no home, so he had gone back to Konoha where he was welcomed back with open arms, well from the civilians. The shinobi, not so much. Too many had started to respect Naruto for what he had done and couldn't forgive Sasuke so easily. The Rookie 12 had changed quite a bit over the years since Naruto was banished. Sakura had taken her training more seriously under Tsunade and became what people had dubbed Mini Tsunade, with her strength and expertise in the medical department. She had also been dying to apologize to Naruto for what she has said to the boy, as she had never been able to forgive herself. The fact that he was banished beguiled matters either, especially when he waltzed back in Konoha and was welcomed back with open arms after, despite the fact he was a traitor. She changed her outfit, which now consisted of the same basic red top as in, with black gloves, black high-heeled boots, black shorts, short pink apron-like skirt, and pink elbow protectors. Sakura is now also armed with a Chunin's Tanto above her medical pouch. Forehead protector has also changed to red in color. Ino had changed drastically. Ever since she had confessed to Naruto, she had become more focused on her training, much to everyone's shock. She learned most of her family's jutsu as well as an array of elemental jutsu that had helped her greatly in missions. Now she understood why Naruto loved jutsu so much. The only person who wasn't shocked at her change was Shikamaru, as he knew how the blondes felt for each other, and it was only a matter of time before Ino confessed and started to commit. What he didn't count on was Naruto being banished. But in a way it was good for the fact that it seemed to motivate Ino much more. Ino had removed the bandages that she used to wear around her waist, which allowed her stomach to be seen, and replaced the fabric arm wear on her elbows with fishnet, and also wears fishnet over her knees. Ino is now also equipped with a Chunin's Tanto, which she wears above her medical pouch, much like Sakura. Shikamaru hadn't honestly changed much, other than the fact he actually trained harder. Maybe because he wanted to help Naruto in the future, as he knew of the dangers the blonde faced, or maybe it was because he realized just how dangerous missions were if not fully prepared. Something he learnt on his last mission with Naruto. Shikamaru has grown noticeably taller. He has also gone under a costume change, sporting a different undershirt and pants, and changing his earrings from rings to studs, though the placement of his headband is the same place as it always was. Shikamaru has been equipped with a Chunin's Tanto. He was also wearing a flak jacket ever since he first became a Chunin. Choji hadn't changed much either, other than deciding to take his training more seriously, since in the retrieval mission he was beaten within an inch of his life thanks to his family's pills. Ever since then he had never had to use them. Choji has brown hair, swirl marks on his cheeks, and like the rest of his clan, he has a much rounder physique than most other people. He sports a red top with armor on his torso, arms, and upper legs, similar to his father. On the front of his chest armor is the obligatory kanji for eat. His brown hair has grown much longer, changes his earrings from rings to studs, and he now looks less overweight and more muscular, just like what he himself had always claimed, big-boned. Kiba also has changed a lot ever since Naruto was banished. He had become more of a controlled person. Instead of being a loudmouth, he was more calm with his nerves and able to fight better now that he didn't get angry fast. He has messy brown hair, sharp black eyes with vertical slit-like pupils, pronounced canine teeth, and nails that he can change into claws. He also has the distinct red fang markings of the Inuzuka clan on his cheeks. His outfit changed to a form-fitting black jacket and pants with a black forehead protector and black sandals. Shino was the same. Just like all Aburame, he didn't really say much to anyone, and to be honest, he preferred it that way as it was much more relaxing. Shino himself didn't like the way Naruto was banished, since he had kind of admired the boy years ago, as he always felt like he was like himself in the regards of being an outcast. Shino has dark bushy brown hair, pale skin. His appearance became even more mysterious, with his jacket hanging down to his knees and the addition of a hood that obstructs his face even more, and a satchel on his back. Hinata had changed the most though. She never stuttered anymore. she was probably the most confident person there and one of the strongest kunoichi. Ever since the banishment she had thrown herself into training non-stop, even to such levels that her father actually worried for her, which was a first. She had let her hair grow to waist length, and wears a white lavender jacket with navy pants with black sandals. Although she still wears her forehead protector around her neck, the cloth has changed to black in color. 1010 hadn't changed much at all. Since she didn't really know Naruto, it didn't affect her all that much, well, not to the extent it did in the others anyway. Her outfit had changed from a pink blouse to a white one and red pants instead of green. She now wears black fingerless gloves. Everything is still a reference to the Chinese culture. She holds a giant tool summoning scroll on her back that she uses when fighting. Lee had seemed depressed as he looked up to Naruto, as he saw him as a brother of sorts, seeing as Naruto, like himself, was the dead lasts of their year. Hearing him being banished, he couldn't help but feel it was most unyouthful, which made him train twice as hard, to the displeasure of his teammates. Lee, well, he wore the same except for a vest top like many other shinobi, plus the fact he was much taller now. Neji had started mentioning fate a bit more again as he saw that with Naruto banished that fate had intervened, stopping Naruto from achieving his goal to become Hokage, and ever mind the fact Sasuke was welcomed back like fuck all happened. Neji abandoned the bandages. Instead of the regular tan jacket and shorts, he now wears traditional white and black hyuga robes. His may have not only been to make his attacks easier, but to show that he is now closer to his clan. Neji is usually seen with a large tan and black drawstring bag, which he carries over his shoulder. And there was Sasuke. He had changed slightly. Oh, he was still arrogant about the Uchiha clan and their power, and with his newly acquired Mangekyo Sharingan it only got worse. But he was more talkative. He didn't isolate himself anymore, and he was more outgoing, albeit a little reluctant, seeing as not many people wanted to be near him. He was shocked that when he came back Naruto had banished because of him, and somehow deep down he knew that decision would bite his and the villagers' ass in the end. He had changed his appearance much over the years, as he now stood at 6 featuring his hair was slightly longer, ganging over his eyes slightly, while wearing a white long-sleeved shirt which was open at the torso, with a smaller version of the Uchiha crest on his collar. He wore black pants with a blue cloth hanging from halfway up his stomach to his knees. He also wore a purple rope around his waist, tied in a bow. Looking up, Tsunade held a grave look. I've called you all here for a very special mission that needs each and every one of you. Kakashi seemed to raise an eyebrow at that. A mission that needs us all? What could be so important? He asked, with everyone else silently agreeing. Soon, Aide folded her hands in front of her face and sighed. Akatsuki. That one single word was enough to stop any comments that had been on their tongues, as they all stiffened up and drew in gasps, thinking and hoping that Naruto was involved somehow. They had all been told about Naruto's connection with the group and had trained as hard as they could to help fight alongside him. Whether he was banished or not, he was still a comrade. Sakura, who had her hands gripping the side of her skirt, looked at Tsunade with a grave look. What of Akatsuki? She asked, wanting to know what they would be facing. Akatsuki had been sighted close to Taki. At first I didn't see what they were after from there, until I realized they currently have a kunoichi there that goes by the name of Fu, the Jinchuriki of the Nanabi no Kabutomushi. She said, causing everyone's eyes to widen. Just like Naruto? Neji asked curiously. Yes, exactly like him, only we have no information on her. The only thing we see and do for now is help Taki to protect Fu and stop Akatsuki from abducting her at all cost. She ordered. Kansuki was sighted? Asuma asked with a cigarette in his mouth. Tsunade sighed and shook her head. Unfortunately, we don't have a clue. The only thing that can honestly be done is be prepared for anything that may come at you. When do we leave? Sasuke asked, wanting a good fight. As soon as possible. I want you all to go home and pack whatever you will need for this mission. Everyone gave a nod and was about to leave until Tsunade spoke up. Kakashi, stay a minute. Kakashi gave a raised brow and gave her a nod, staying behind. Kakashi looked up at Tsunade once everyone was gone and spoke. You wanted me alone, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade gave a nod and looked at the wall as it slow WLY shimmered before revealing Jiraiya with his arms crossed. Did he get it? She asked with hopefulness in her voice. Jiraiya looked at Tsunade with a small smile on his face. Yes, I don't know if he read it yet. All we have to do is wait and hope. Tsunade smiled slightly. I just hope he can forgive me. She said so low it may have been mistaken as a whisper. Jiraiya chuckled. Believe me, I doubt he would blame you whatsoever. He said, making her feel a bit better. Kakashi looked back between the two before sighing and asking, what are you two talking about? Both Sannin looked back at him and the decency to look ashamed that they had forgotten about him. Naruto, Tsunade said simply. Kakashi looked immensely confused. I don't understand. What about him? Tsunade just chuckled lightly. I have requested that Naruto comes back in a letter that I had Jiraiya give to him. I can't explain much, but on this mission there may be a chance you meet him. If so, find out his answer and go from there. She ordered Kakashi, who stood gobsmacked that his old student would, or may, be coming back. Looking at Jiraiya, he asked, have you been keeping in contact all these years with him? Jiraiya smiled and stepped away from the wall to stand by Tsunade. Yep, with him still having the Toad contract, I was able to meet up with him multiple times. Kakashi gave a short nod and turned to Tsunade. What makes you so sure we may meet with Naruto? He asked with a raised brow. Akatsuki, Jiraiya stated. Naruto is hunting the Akatsuki down one by one. If he knows one has been sighted, he will be there to kill them and save his fellow Jinchuriki. Kakashi's eyes widened at what Naruto was doing. He's hunting them. But that's suicide. Just how strong is Naruto? He asked and was lightly afraid of the answer when Jiraiya flinched as if remembering a past memory. He has been able to defeat me the last couple of times we had a real fight to test his abilities. He explained, getting Kakashi's lone eye to widen in shock. I see. I take it this is just between us three for now. He asked, knowing he wouldn't be able to tell everyone else. Tsunade gave a sad nod, knowing however, Yon wanted to see him and be able to help him with his troubles. Unfortunately, that is correct. You won't have to treat Naruto as an enemy. He has no animosity towards us, which honestly surprises me. But I guess he wouldn't be the hero if he did, she said with a small chuckle at the end, getting smiles from the other two. Kakashi gave a nod and made his way for the door. Understood. I guess I'll go get prepared, and I hope he comes back as well, Tsunade-sama. He said, smiling as he left the room. After Kakashi had gone, Tsunade relaxed into the back of her chair and looked at Jiraiya with a solemn look. Will he ever forgive us for what we have done? Jiraiya smiled sadly, understanding her pain. You shouldn't worry. I doubt Naruto would ever blame you for what you was forced to do. He isn't the knucklehead anymore. He is a very smart young man, and if anything, it's the council who should be afraid. He said with an evil grin, while Tsunade smiled slightly while hoping he was. Well, we better just wait to see if he comes back, she said with anxiousness in her voice. And then I can tell you how I really feel while I can. She thought to herself. Later that day, Takigakure, Kunoichi stood in an open field with a nervous look on her face as she faced her opponent. This woman was Fu, the Jinchuriki of the Nanabi no Kabutomushi. Fu wore a clip with her green hair and had pink eyes. Her ninja outfit consisted of a high white shirt, white armlets, and a fishnet waistband, her Takigakure forehead protector being worn on her arm like Shikamaru. Fu also carried a red cylindrical object on her back. Her opponent's, however, was from the world-renowned organization known as Akatsuki. He was, however, called Kisame Hoshigaki. Kisame was a very tall and strong shinobi, with a distinctive shark-like appearance. Complete with pale blue skin, small white eyes, gill-like facial structures, and sharp triangular teeth. Kisame also wears a dark purple nail color, like Itachi. Underneath his Akatsuki cloak, Kisame wears an outfit similar to the one that his colleague, Zabuza Momochi, wore. On his left ring finger is his Akatsuki ring, which bears the kanji for South Nan. Come on girlie, just come peacefully. Otherwise my Samahata will be getting some lovely chakra to eat from you, Kisame said with a feral smirk showing his sharp teeth. Fu looked at her opponent and frowned slightly. She knew that this fish man would beat her. She was strong, but she wasn't that strong to beat someone of this caliber. But he wants Nanabi. I can't let him take her. Never mind the fact that I will be killed. I have to do all I can. You think I'll give up just like that? You really are as dumb as you look. she said with a smirk as Kisame just grinned wider as he gripped Samahata. Well then, I'll just have to shave your legs off first. Shooting forward, he brought Samahata around and swung at Fu, who brought a kunai up with chakra flowing through it to defend herself. Sam. Ihata was brought down on the kunai, causing an explosion to erupt as a crater was formed. Fu pushed Kisame off of her and flipped backwards to get some distance between them so she could eye the situation better. Looking ahead, she saw Kisame stood in the newly created crater with his Samahata hung on his shoulder as he stared at her with his fish-like eyes. Fu held her arms out as bugs started to come from under her armbands before flying around her, making Kisami's eyebrow raise. With having the Nanabi no Kabutomushi sealed within me, it gives me the abilities to control bugs, much like the Aburame of Konoha do. Thrusting her arms out, what seemed like thousands of bugs flew at Kisame at astounding speed, flipping through hand seals. He called out. Sweden. Sukoden no Jutsu. Water Rel. Ease. Water shark missile technique. Opening his mouth, a large amount of water shot out of it before taking the ghostly form of a shark that cut through the bugs heading for Fu. Fu, seeing the danger eating for her, put her hands in a seal and called out. Mushi Kame no Jutsu. Insect jar technique. All of her bugs suddenly flew towards her and wrapped around her, making a dome-like shield protecting her as the water shark struck the shield, causing a small tremor in the earth. With the Konoha team at the border between Hinokuni and Takigakure. We are close, Shino said, causing everyone to look at him as they all jumped through the trees. How do you know? Ten asked with a raised brow. I can sense bugs being used along with someone that holds a large amount of chakra. He explained. Quote, the bugs must be a side effect of having the Nanabi no Kabutomushi sealed within her, making her like an Aburame. Asuma deduced, getting nods from his fellow Jonin. Kiba started sniffing around before scrunching his nose in disgust. I can smell what reminds me of fish, and a lot of blood, as if this person had killed all his life. Kakashi placed his hand under his chin, thinking before his lone eye widened. Out of Akatsuki, the only one who sounds like that is Kisame Hoshigaki. If that is the case, we need to hurry up. What's so dangerous about him? Ino asked with a confused face. Kisame Hoshigaki was a former member of the Kiri no Shu. His chakra reserves could rival a Biju, making him a powerhouse, and his sword Samahata is a truly monstrous thing. If there is anyone in Akatsuki who is a real danger, it is him. Kakashi explained, making everyone's eyes widen. Sasuke's eyes also widened when he realized something. Itachi and he were after Naruto. He said, making them look at him in shock. All those years ago, when I was utterly defeated by Itachi in a hotel, I saw Kisame ready to take Naruto, and if it hadn't been for Jiraiya, they may have actually captured him. So what does that mean? Naruto is Kisami's target? Sakura asked with a worried look. Kurenai sighed sadly, knowing it may be true. It may be possible, but with Itachi dead, he wouldn't have a partner anymore. His orders may have changed. We should hurry then, we have no idea what we'll be getting into. Guy said in a moment of seriousness as he got nods from all around before the shot off. With Naruto, Yuto was flying through the trees at full speed. He had felt demonic chakra not long ago, and lucky for him he wasn't that far from the location. What made him panic more was when he felt a familiar and an extremely high level of chakra. He knew without a doubt that it was Akatsuki attacking Takigakure for their Jinchuriki. Lucky for him he had been there before and was familiar with the village leader Shibuki. Over the years he had found out that the village had saw him as a hero, much like other villages he had saved has. He couldn't help but feel proud of himself at the fact that he was being seen as a hero in different countries, and yet he couldn't even get that sort of respect in his own village. Shaking his head from his thoughts, he narrowed his eyes ahead of him, focusing on his goal to save his fellow Jinchuriki. Akatsuki's going to be one more member down when I'm through with them, he said with venom lacing his tone. With Fu and Kisame, Fu's bugs dispersed from around her as held out her hand, firing them at Kisame, who just kept batting them away with his large sword, getting annoyed as more and more bugs came at him. Haijutsu. Mushidama. Secret technique. Insect's fur. She called out as all of the bugs around Kisame covered his entire body, sucking chakra out of him. What she didn't realize, however, was that Kisame held a lot of chakra. All of a sudden water started leaking out of the bugs before it exploded in water, showing that it was a Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu. Water clone technique, she said, shocked that she hadn't noticed when he made a clone. Must have been when I was shielded by my bugs. The crafty bastard. She was shaken from her thoughts as she was hit in her with such strength that she was sent flying, hitting the ground, causing her to get cut up along the way. Placing her hand on the ground, she slowed herself down and twisted so that she could flip up to stand on her feet, glaring at Kisame, who had a smirk on his face. She noticed how the wrapping on Samahata had come of at the top, revealing blue scales. Looking down at her side, she noticed that her clothes had been torn and she had a large gash that had ripped her skin, suddenly red. Chakra started bubbling around the area, healing her skin almost instantly, making her sigh in relief. Kisame stabbed the ground, placing Samahata there as he flipped through hand seals. Sweden. Sweryud. And no jutsu. Water release. Water dragon bullet technique. A large water dragon appeared in front of Kisame and shot at Fu, who was unprepared for the jutsu. Luckily for her, Kami was on her side as a voice called out. Doden. Doryuheiki. Earth release. Earth-style wall. A large wall of solid earth rose up in front of Fu, shielding her from the might of the water dragon that slammed into it, causing water to splash over the area. Some even getting Fu. As the wall lowered, Fu saw something she would never expect to ever see. 15 Konoha shinobi lined up in front of her. Snapping out of her shock, he said the first thing that came into her head. Who are you people? Kakashi looked back and I smiled. The Hokage was warned about sighting of Akatsuki in the area, and we are here to help you out. He said as if it was nothing. Why would you help me? She asked bitterly, wondering what their motive was. Let's just say we owe it to an old friend. Asuma said with a sad smile. Who? She asked, still suspicious of them. Naruto Uzumaki. Kurenai replied, making the Jinchuriki's eyes to widen. The hero of Takigakure. She asked in complete shock, making the others look at her in surprise at what she called him. They didn't know that's how the village saw them, making them feel even more depressed of their village's actions towards him. Yes, him. He was also a Jinchuriki like you. Nay, I said almost solemnly, making the young girl wonder what had happened to her village's hero. Kisame looked at the group and realized he was in actual trouble. While he may be strong and confident, he wasn't stupid. Sure, he may take a few of them out, but at what cost? This could be trouble. I best be going now. He said as was about to use a shunshin to get away. Mokuden. Jubaku Iso. Whoa. OD release. Curse binding nest. Planks of wood shot out of the ground and curled around Kisame's arms and legs, binding him where he stood, stopping him from getting away. You're not going anywhere, fish face. Spoke a very familiar voice to the Konoha shinobi. Everyone looked over to the side to see Naruto knelt down on the ground with his palm flat on the surface and staring at Kisame with narrowed eyes. Naruto. Kakashi asked, unsure if what he saw was real, while everyone's eyes widened, seeing how much he had changed. Fu also looked in shock at finally able to see the hero of her village, as well as a fellow Jinchuriki. Naruto looked at Kakashi with a small smile and stood up at full height, which funnily enough he was taller than most there compared to when he was a midget. It's good to see you, Kakashi-sensei. It's been too long, he said with a chuckle. Ah, the Kyuubi kid is here. Last time I saw you, you was a scrawny little bastard. Kisame said with a feral grin, acting like he isn't even restrained. Looking down at the wood, his grin got bigger. So you can use the Mokuden, huh? He said, making them look at Naruto in shock. Naruto simply just shrugged his shoulders. It isn't that hard to use, really. With having the Kyuubi's presence within me, it makes my chakra all the more potent and giving me the ability to recreate sub-elemental chakra, almost like a bloodline. He said as he noticed the wood around Kisame start to crack. Amazing. Asuma muttered. He had always had a liking for jutsu, just like his father. Being able to do that could increase someone's potential immensely. Kakashi also muttered in awe. While everyone was in awe of being able to do such a thing, Sasuke was gritting his teeth in anger at the Dobi being able to do such a thing when he can't. How the hell could he get so strong? Naruto held out his right hand, causing a spark of fire to ignite on the palm of it before he shouted. Kaden. Shakaho. Fire release. Shot of red fire. A large red ball of fire blew from his hand, hitting Kisame, causing a large explosion. Once the smoke cleared, it shone Kisame with a lightly scorched cloak and his Samahata shielding him from the attack. Hee hee. Not bad, ya little brat. But not good enough, he said with a smirk. Before Kisame could do anything he was interrupted as someone spoke in his head. Kisame, retreat for now, you at too much of a disadvantage. We will retrieve the 2 Jinchuriki another time. Kisame sighed and attached Samahata on his back, confusing the group entirely. Well, looks like I've gotta go, I'll see you, Kyuubi boy. Some other time, he said with an evil cackle as he suddenly turned to water splashing the ground. Naruto, seeing Kisame gone, slammed his fist into the ground, causing a small crater. Damn it. Kakashi, seeing everyone was alright, stepped closer to Naruto. Naruto, he said, getting the blonde's attention, who stood up and looked at him. Tsunade-sama wanted to know if you were returning or not the Konoha shinobi. Kakashi-sensei, what do you mean? Naruto is banished, isn't he? Sakura asked, confused, causing Naruto look at her with an even look that put her on edge, remembering her last confrontation with the young man, while Naruto remembered that and more. Flashback. Naruto had just returned from the council meeting informing him of his banishment. Nothing felt more like a kick in the crotch than being told everything you worked and lived for was being taken from you like that. Turning around a corner on his way home to pack, he came across Sakura, who was with one of his first ever crushes, Ino Yamanaka. Naruto, deciding to be nice, ran over to them, hoping to say his goodbyes. Hey, Sakura-chan, Naruto chirped at the pink-haired girl, who looked annoyed and angry. She responded, what do you want, Naruto? Naruto, realizing why she must be angry, looked down slightly, knowing Sakura was thinking about his broken promise. Sakura-chan, I'm sorry that I couldn't bring Sasuke back. Her response was something that he may have expected, however, as she turned on him with the mother of all glares. Sorry that you couldn't keep your promise. No, Naruto, I'm sorry for believing that a dead last like you would bring back Sasuke-kun. Naruto looked up, shocked that the girl he thought he had a crush on would say something like that. Sakura-chan, I really tried, but... Tried? Yeah, right, you didn't try. Why would you try to save Sasuke? You knew I liked him, and I bet you thought that if he was out of the picture then I would say yes to a date. Deciding enough was enough, and that he wasn't going to take care of any more bullshit from the bitch, glared back with icy blue eyes that unnerved them. I didn't try. I had a hole in my fucking chest, actually make that too, from why? Our precious Sasuke-kun, all because I was holding back, afraid I might kill him, and what do I get in return? Glares from every fucker I have met, and to make matters worse, I just came from a meeting telling me I'm banished. Never to step back in this village again. It's you pink-haired bitch, who did fuck all except cry. Maybe next time you will lift a finger. Fuck you and fuck this village. Naruto said with so much anger that Sakura kept taking steps back, while all the villagers listening in were wondering if they had pushed him too far. As Naruto walked off, they could have sworn they heard, I should have killed him instead. Quote, Ino was wide-eyed through it all, not believing this was Naruto that was talking, despite what people thought. She never hated him, hell, if anything she admired him. Years ago, before he put up his smiling mask, she had a crush on him for a long time. It was when he acted like an idiot that she went to Sasuke, as he reminded her of Naruto. Seeing him like that add more her well, horny slightly, as old feelings came back, but then it hit her, banishment. For failing a mission. How retarded was that? Hell, he wasn't even the team leader. Ino looked over at her Reen's face and noticed she had her eyes wide in shock at what she heard. Well, you deserved that. Well, I'm going to say bye to Naruto-kun, and maybe something else. She said with a smirk and blush as she ran off. It was only later did Sakura realize what she had lost from her actions, and she would never get to apologize, and in her eyes she didn't deserve to have the chance for that. She knew. She was a bitch and she deserved what Naruto said. It was what Ino said that truly confused her, though. End of flashback. Naruto smiled at that. When Ino had turned up at his door, she had confessed everything. When he asked why she was telling him now, she responded, because I may never get another chance to tell you the truth again, and I don't want that in that back of my mind all my life, wondering, what if, you know. Naruto's answer was to kiss her on the lips, making her wide-eyed before melting into it. Loving every second of it, as it brought pure bliss to her, bliss she knew she would never forget. What Naruto and Ino did that night no one knew, but it left the two relieved and happy at finally getting everything off their chest for once. The next morning Naruto had left everything behind hoping for a better future. Naruto looked back to Kakashi and smiled slightly. Tell Tsunade. 1 week, I still have some stuff that needs doing before I plan on doing anything. He paused he looked at Fu who was looking at him in amazement. I should get Fu back to Takigakure and to her brother Shibuki. He said, making her go wide-eyed at the fact he knew who she really was. Kakashi. I smiled and gave a nod in acceptance and turned around to everyone else. Well, it seems like everything is all right here, we should head back now. Tsunade-sama would want to hear everything as soon as possible. Everyone gave a nod and gave Naruto one last look before jumping away, leaving Naruto to sigh in relief. Thank God, that was getting awkward with everyone staring at me. He muttered to himself. Fu looked up at Naruto as she walked up to him, barely reaching his shoulders. So you're the one who saved my brother along with our entire village? She asked, making sure this was the right guy. Naruto chuckled and gave a nod. Yup, although I did have my teammates with me, but I did help Shibuki defeat his former sensei Suion. He replied as they started walking back to the village. Thank you for saving my brother Naruto-san. I was only a genin at the time, but I had heard about everything from him. She said, bowing and smiling brightly. Naruto just waved her off with a small smile. It's in my nature to help those who deserve it. Fu looked up at him with a smile along with a look of awe before shaking her head and asking. How come you weren't with the Konoha shinobi? I thought you were one of them. Naruto sighed sadly and looked up at the sky as it was getting dark. I was banished from Konoha. He said, making her gasp in shock. Banished? Why? She asked in shock. Quote, when I was 13 I had a mission to bring back my teammate who had deserted us and was going to Orochimaru for power to kill Itachi Uchiha. I failed, and lost due to be struck in the chest with a Raiden jutsu. When I got back the council had decided I was too dangerous to be there because of the Kyuubi, and so I was banished, but, if I'm truthful with myself, I prefer being banished than being stuck in a village being treated like I'm the Kyuubi itself or like ticking time bomb. Fu looked at Naruto in amazement at how much she knew he must have endured with having the Kyuubi sealed inside of him. And being betrayed by the village he trusted. She herself knew very well of how people can treat you just because you hold a demon in your gut, but even she could tell she had it easy as the Kyuubi had killed thousands of innocent people in his home village. Naruto looked at Fu with a gentle smile. We should get to the village as soon as possible, your brother is probably worried sick for you. He said, getting a nod from her as they started running. Takigakure 5 days later. Naruto, when he returned with Fu, had been thanked profusely for saving her by Shibuki, who had practically hugged him to the point he almost died from being unable to breathe. He had simply told him it was no problem and it was his duty. Shibuki had then offered for him to stay for a while so he can rest up and get things sorted out before he had to go back to Konoha and deal with the council. Over that time Naruto and Fu had spent time together, getting to know each other. Naruto told her about his journey in all the stuff he had experienced and seen. She had listened to each and every bit of his tales. She had soon found herself falling for the tall shinobi, much to Shibuki's amusement, who could easily tell by the way she always seemed to be with him doing countless activities. And now was the day when he was going to leave for God knows how long. Naruto stood at the gateway of the village that leads to the outside of the large tree, ready to go back to his old village that betrayed him. AFE journey Naruto-san. Shibuki said with a small bow. Thanks Shibuki-san, I doubt anything will happen though, Konoha's not far from here. He said with a small smile. He then noticed Fu's downtrodden mode and knew it was because he was leaving. He had known she started getting a crush on him but didn't want to pressure her into anything, so he had left it to see how things progressed. Walking up to her, he reached into his pouch and pulled out a 3=prong kunai and held it out to her. If you ever need my help or in trouble, or if you just want to talk even, throw this at something and I'll be there within a moment's notice, I promise. Fu looked at the kunai in wonder, never seeing something Icon quickly took it in case he declined it and took it back. Bowing to Naruto slightly, she said. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Naruto chuckled and brought his hand under chin, lifting her head up. Leaning down a bit, he brought his lips to hers in a soft sensual kiss that almost made her faint, while Shibuki tried not to pay attention to what was happening to his sister. Pulling back, Naruto grinned at Fu's dazed look. That's something to remember me by. Hopefully when I see you again, it can last longer. He said with a chuckle as he waved to them both before leaving. Once Naruto was out of Sig, Shibuki looked at his sister who held the kunai tightly to her chest and chuckled. Looks like someone's in love, he said in a song-like voice, making the girl blush brightly. Shibuki, she screamed, as she chased after her brother who was laughing all the way. With Naruto a day later, Naruto was jumping through the trees at a calm pace, knowing there was no rush. All of a sudden he stopped moving as he landed on a tree branch and jumped down to the ground floor. Suddenly a sharp blade was at his throat, extremely close to coming to killing him, when a soft female chuckle came from behind him. Either you're getting slow, or you wanted to be in this position, the voice said in an almost suggestive voice. The Naruto that had the blade to his throat suddenly poofed, causing the figure to turn around, where they saw Naruto leaning against a tree with a smirk on his face. Well, we have tried every other position, may as well create a new one, Kagura Ankai, he said with a wink. Naruto gazed at the person in front of him and couldn't help but admire the woman in front of him. Her emerald eyes and crimson hair seemed to sway in mischief, copying her personality exactly. She wore a CK battle kimono that was slightly altered. It was altered in a way that it was very revealing. Yet to underestimate her would be a great disadvantage. She was carrying in her hand a wicked-looking SCYTHE that had a red-colored blade on it. It was a family heirloom of hers that has been passed from warrior to warrior. It was because of this weapon that she was called the Shujuhi Kiho. Kagura huckled lightly and placed her scythe on her back and sauntered over to Naruto and grabbed his face, pulling him into a hungry, yet loving kiss that they both moaned into as if they hadn't kissed in a long time. Naruto twisted her around so she was up against the tree and started to kiss her neck, bringing tingles through her body at feeling such a sensation as she brought her right leg up, almost apping around his waist as if inviting him in. Naruto broke the kisses and looked back at Kagura's half-lidded emerald eyes that seemed to shine with love for him. Something he would have never anticipated in all of his life. Sorry, but we can't do that here, he said in what sounded like an apologetic voice, getting a disappointed moan from the woman. Are you sure? She asked, hoping he would. I mean, no one is here. We could fuck all night and not be disturbed. Naruto chuckled at her and gave her another kiss. Sorry, but we have to be at Konoha by tomorrow. I promised Tsunade I would help her, and you know me. Kagura chuckled as she stroked his whiskered cheeks softly that made him growl. You and your promises, she said softly. You gonna seduce her too? She said with a smirk and a wink. Naruto chuckled and shook his head. I don't seduce people, they flock to me, and besides I'm only interested in a few women I've met over time. It's up to Tsunade if she want it or not, he said, pulling her closer so he could whisper in her ear while his hot breath made her shiver. You'll always be my number one, no matter what, he said while giving her ass a little squeeze, making her moan in pleasure. Cheese, she whispered into his shoulder before pulling back with a small smile on her face. Naruto chuckled and patted down his rustled clothes and looked back at Kagura. So, what have you found out? Kagura, taking control of her hormones, said. Orochimaru's been gathering more and more missing nin to his forces. Luckily, they seem more like cannon fodder. It shouldn't be long now until the hubby Tem finally strikes, she said in a seriousness tone. Naruto gave a nod and sighed. Luckily we'll be there to stop him from following through with his conquest against Konoha. Kagura also sighed, hating Orochimaru for all the trouble he has caused people. Do you think Sasuke will join back with him? There's got to be some reason he left the Tem alive before he went to Itachi, she asked carefully, knowing his history with the certain Uchiha. Naruto shrugged as if he didn't care. Honestly, I don't know. While I think it's strange he left him alive, either he didn't defeat him or he needed him for something. But if he does join with Orochimaru, this time I won't let him survive, he said, clenching his fist. Kagura grabbed Naruto's hand, intertwining their fingers together, calming him down somewhat. You're not alone this time, Narukoi, and with us too, no one can stop us, she said with a smirk. Naruto tightened his grip on Kagura's hand for a second as if thanking her before he spoke. Well, we should head to Konoha to help Tsunade out. Kagura gave a nod as they started leaping through the trees. You'll never have to fight alone anymore, Narukoi, I'll make damn sure of that. Thought Kagura with a smirk on her face that put Naruto on edge. That smirk is never a good sign. Then again, she does look sexy like that. Hi no Kuni, Konoha. North gates the next day. Naruto looked at the gates with narrowed eyes. It had been 6 years since he was last here, since he was banished, and he still couldn't help but feel a little anger at those who mistreated him all those years. Kagura, who was stood by him, looked at the village gates with also narrowed eyes for the treatment they had given her love. Now though Tsunade had requested his help, even going so far as to revoke his banishment, what was more surprising was the council wholeheartedly agreeing. He knew why he was being called in. Akatsuki were still out there and strong, extremely strong. What was worse was that Orochimaru was also on the move and looking to kill and destroy Konoha. Starting on his walk towards the desk, he was getting excited at seeing Tsunade again, Shikamaru too, as he was one of his best friends. Kiba was also a best friend with a certain rivalry. He had also become good friends with Neji after the Chunin exam, as the Hyuga had become more social with people now that he didn't believe in fate. Then there was Ino. He had no idea what to do with her. There were other certain women in the village he had his eye on, but with being gone for all these years he had no idea if they had found someone or what. Naruto came up to the gate and he noticed 2 guards at the gate booth relaxing. These 2 were Katetsu and Izumo, the pranking Chunins and Naruto's friends. 2 of the people who saw him for him and not the fox. When the guards noticed him, they almost passed out at seeing someone back from the dead. Why Yondaime-sama, Izumo spluttered. Naruto groaned at that. Geez, I know I look like my dad, but I'm sorry to upset you, it's me Naruto. He said, flashing them a grin. This time they did pass out from shock at having Naruto back in the village. Didn't expect that. Oh well. With that, and carried on his merry way to the Hokage Tower. Kagura's sweat dropped as Naruto just stepped over the guards but shrugged her shoulders and followed after Naruto, as she really didn't want to get lost in a village. The last time she got lost in a village, she ended up destroying a portion of it out of frustration with her scythe, until she was kicked out of the village. Naruto, as he was walking, noticed everyone looking at him. Women were blushing and pointing, and men were glaring at him as they saw their wives and girlfriends look at him in lust. Yondaime-sama has returned. He's back for redemption against us. Our hero is back. Wow, he's so handsome. I wonder if he'll have my children. Naruto groaned at the last comment. It's like everywhere else I go. Hokage Tower. Tsunade Senju was currently sat behind her desk going through reports on sighting of Akatsuki in Fire Country lately, and she had a pretty good idea why they were here. Over the years she hadn't changed one bit. She was still the short-tempered woman that would fall asleep and get drunk. However, it was less and less as the years went on. Throughout the years she would think about Naruto and what he was doing. Jiraiya had given her bits and pieces of information about her Naruto, but it always made her want to see him more. Unknown to anyone other than Shizune, she had gained a liking for the blonde. A liking that went beyond and friendship, something she was afraid of admitting as he was too young for her, but that didn't stop the dreams coming. She was woken from her thoughts as she heard a knock at the door. Now though she was confused, there were no teams out, no missions ready, so the only possibility must be. Come on, she said with a little hope. Street. Epping thought the door what was some people may call a god among men. Tsunade had to hold back a drool and control her emotions. It was then she recognized the man, blowing all of her dreams and fantasies out of the water. Naruto, she asked carefully. Naruto chuckled and stepped forward. Yep, it's me. I got your message a week ago, he said with a soft smile as Tsunade's eyes widened to massive saucers. Tsunade had practically dove over the desk as she hugged the blonde to her, and what she found was a strong muscled male, taller than her, and she loved every minute of it. Naruto placed his arms around the woman, hugging her just as tight, enjoying the feeling of being with Tsunade again. He was interrupted when he heard sniffing. Looking down, he noticed Tsunade had a couple tears down her eyes. Wiping them away with his thumb as he held her cheek, he asked, "What's wrong?" "I'm sorry. So sorry for banishing you," she said softly as she held on to him tighter. Naruto grinned as he stepped back while wiping the tears away. "It wasn't your fault, and besides I think it was for the best." he said, making her feel a little better as she pulled back. Then she noticed the red-headed woman. The room just got chilly and Naruto couldn't but gulp. "Who are you?" Tsunade asked with narrowed eyes. Kagura smirked and walked up behind Naruto, hugging him. "I'm one of Naruto's lovers and future wife," she said, making Tsunade's eyes widen as she realized what she said. "One of Naruto's lovers?" she asked in shock. Naruto chuckled and waved a hand, trying to defuse the situation. "Well, I need to restart my clan. And as you know, I'm able to have multiple wives to rebuild it. But we'll talk about that later anyway," he said while Kagura winked at her, making her blush slightly at the implications of that talk maybe. Tsunade then went around her desk as Naruto and Kagura pulled chairs up to the desk and sat down, only for Naruto to start off. "I discovered my bloodline." Tsunade gasped in shock at hearing that. She had never expected him to achieve unlocking it, what with the Kyuubi being inside of him. "How?" Naruto chuckled at her expressions while Kagura grinned. "I had a seal placed on me. I don't know how it was put on or when, but it was halting my improvements. It slowed down my reaction time and how fast I learned stuff. Technically it was stumping my growth, however Kyuubi informed me of it once I left the village. I asked him if he could get rid of it, which he did by pouring his demonic chakra into it, completely vaporizing it. With that gone, it sent me all of the knowledge, power. The lot that I should have received was transferred to me, and it was some time later I was attacked where I unlocked my bloodline. I was shocked to find out what it was though." Tsunade sat there gobsmacked. She couldn't believe someone had intended to stump his growth so much and block off his bloodline, for reasons she didn't want to know. Tsunade sighed and shook her head. "Only you could go through all that." Naruto smirked. "I tend to go through a lot." He realized his poor choice of words when she lowered her head and started crying slightly. Walking over, he pulled her into a hug. "Stop crying. I never blamed you. I knew you didn't want anything to do with it." Tsunade just sighed before wrapping her arms around the blonde once more. As she was going to let go, a voice broke through. "If I didn't know any better, I'd say you two were lovers," said a voice that came from the window. The two looked over and saw a perversely grinning Jiraiya. As Tsunade was about to retort, Naruto spoke up. "Jealous," he joked with a grin, making Jiraiya gape, not expecting that response, while Tsunade blushed scarlet. Kagura chuckled at Jiraiya's expression. If he reacted like to what Naruto said, wait until later. "Well, if it isn't the perverted old man," he said with a dangerous smirk that scared the man. "Ah, Kagura-chan, so nice to see you again," he said, a little nervous why as he watched Kagura sliding her fingers up and down her side as if preparing for something. Tsunade broke the embrace before going back to her desk and sitting down. "Anyway, you know why I requested you be brought here?" Tsunade asked Naruto, who gave her a nod. "Yep, Akatsuki and Oto, I think the letter said. I hear the two are becoming powerful. There are also rumors that they may try and recruit more missing nin or make an alliance with other countries." The two Sannin gave their own nods before Jiraiya spoke. "That's why you're here. The council agreed with us that right now, we need your help should things get out of control, but first we need to test you, and with Kagura here as well, you two are like an army yourselves," he said while Kagura grinned proudly. Naruto gave a nod. "Okay, but don't expect me to be the old me against the council. They will learn just who they banished all those years ago," he said, emphasizing the who, meaning he was going to tell them everything. Tsunade chuckled and asked, "Before that, we need to evaluate your skills before you are hired as a mercenary like you wanted. Is there anyone you would like to challenge to prove you strength?" Naruto leant back in his seat and thought about everyone he knew that he wanted to show up. However, only one stood out, one of his clan, one who had ruined his life and took everything. Looking at Tsunade with a devious grin that aroused her slightly, leading her thoughts astray, he asked, "What's Sasuke Uchiha doing lately? I want to see what my cousin is capable of nowadays," he asked as the three of them chuckled at his plan. "Hokage Tower, Tsunade's office." "Sasuke, Jiraiya mumbled as he stroked his chin. Tsunade though seemed worried. "Are you sure? I don't need for one of you to die," she half-joked, causing him to chuckle. "Don't worry, he's probably stronger than most shinobi here, and there's a lot to tell him about me, some stuff even you two don't know," he said, smirking. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow at that. "And what don't we know?" "Sasuke's real parents." Both Sannin went wide-eyed at that. His parents were Makoto Uchiha and Fugaku Uchiha, aren't they? Tsunade questioned. Nope, they are not his biological parents. But you said he was your cousin. Jiraiya exclaimed. And he is. Listen, I'll explain when I'm fighting Sasuke. I'd rather not have to repeat everything. Have everyone from the Rookie 12 and their senseis to show up, especially Hatake. Naruto spat out his name as if he had eaten something poisonous. Both Sannin flinched at the way Naruto said Kakashi's name and couldn't honestly blame the young man for saying it like that. There's also information about Orochimaru you may need, Kagura said while Naruto gave a nod. What information? Tsunade questioned, looking at the red head. Orochimaru has been building his forces rapidly with each growing day. We fear he may strike at any time, and we also fear he may actually succeed. Naruto told them. He is recruiting missing nin from all over. Most likely he will give them the cursed seal, making them even more formidable and tougher to kill. Kagura said. I see. He may become a troublesome person soon then. Jiraiya said with a sigh. Don't worry. We'll help Konoha fight Orochimaru. Naruto said with a smile. Very well, thank you. Oh, and be at training ground 7 in 2 hours. Tsunade said with a small smile. Naruto got up and stretched, giving Tsunade an eyeful. Sure, I want to take a look around anyway, he said as Kagura also got up and waved to them as they left. Now that the two Sannin were alone, Tsunade turned to Jiraiya. How strong is he? Jiraiya sighed. He should have expected this. He can beat me in my sage mode, that's a fact. Also, he has his own secrets, don't forget. I only seen him for a maximum of 2 years. For the other years I have no idea what he did. For all I know, he's the strongest shinobi out there. The toads were fascinated by him when he achieved his sage mode, however. He had mastered it to levels I could only wish for. It took some doing to absorb the information. Knowing Naruto was off the map for a good number of years were eating away at her curiosity. Then there was the fact Naruto could beat Jiraiya in his sage mode. Even she knew how strong that was, and being able to defeat him in that was a feat in itself. Well, we're just gonna have to wait until we see the match. What of the Kagura girl? She asked, making Jiraiya chuckle. He met her close to Kuritaker. At first she thought he was a hunter nin out for her head and attacked him. I don't know the full story as I wasn't there, but he managed to beat her. She then decided to work with him, where they traveled together and eventually fell in love with each. How someone like her fell for a guy like him, I'll never understand. What I do know is that Naruto is eligible to the Clan Restoration Act, allowing him to have multiple wives. He has already found some possible wives out there. Honestly, I don't know the full story of everything. You would have to ask them about it, but what I can tell you about her is that in the bingo book she is called Shujuhi Kiho. Scarlet W. Itch, he said, making her go wide-eyed at the name. Holy shit, she was borderline A.S. rank in the bingo book, never mind a crazed fighter with her scythe. She has killed thousands like it was nothing. To think Naruto fell in love with someone like her, but then again she didn't look crazy. If anything, she looked like a woman in love with the way she was all over Naruto, and now with the Clan Restoration Act, there may be a chance. Anyway, on to more serious matters. What of Akatsuki? Tsunade asked with a rare serious face. Jiraiya sighed and sat down in front of Tsunade. There are still many members as far as I'm aware of. Kakuzu of the 5 Hearts, and his partner Hidan, these two are said to be immortals. Kisame Hoshigaki is still a member, however his partner was Itachi. Now I don't know who may have replaced him. There is also Deidara and Sasori of the Red Sands who are partners. Sadly, that is all I know for now. They have been in hiding all these years until recently. They have started popping up a lot more frequently. I don't know if this is good or bad, only time will tell. Tsunade gave a nod at that but sighed sadly. Is Naruto ready for them? Jiraiya chuckled. Oh yes, and if not, we're here to help him. Which is the true reason you brought him back, wasn't it? Jiraiya questioned. Tsunade sighed and gave a nod. I knew we couldn't reinstate him as a leaf shinobi, well, not right now anyway. But we can hire him for his services, allowing us to help him with his battles. Jiraiya shook his head at Tsunade. She was always sneaky. Why not tell him? Tsunade snorted. Yeah, right. He would just say that he didn't need help and that it would be safer for us to not get involved. We all know him too much. Jiraiya had to agree with her on that one. Naruto always was the selfless one. I suppose you're right. Tsunade then pulled out a sake bottle and 2 saucers. Now why don't you fill me in on what the blonde Gaki has been up to? She said as she poured the sake onto the saucers. With Naruto and Kagura. Naruto was walking down the main street on his way to the training ground. Seeing as they didn't have much time left, Kagura was holding his hand while leaning on him, making all people around them jealous at what they each have. Naruto looked at Kagura and smiled at how peaceful she looked. You know, for someone who has a high amount of bloodlust in a battle. You sure are a softie, he said with a chuckle as she slapped him on the chest lightly. All thanks to you, I've never felt at such peace before. I was always on the run before, having to kill to survive. I just got used to it, and then I received my scythe. It made me become accustomed to killing, and sometime I enjoyed it. She said, a little sad at the end. Naruto chuckled at her confession. Sometimes when I use the Kyuubi's chakra, I enjoy killing, although it's when I kill people like bandits, rapists and murderers. You shouldn't feel bad about it, for all you know, someone is alive because of you. Kagura smiled at Naruto's attempt to cheer up. Thanks Naru-koi. What are you going to do about Sasuke? Naruto chuckled evilly. He will know the truth about everything, his and my heritage included. Of course everyone will know, but I'd prefer it that way. Kagura smiled into his arm as they walked closer to the training ground. You better not lose by underestimating him, or you and my scythe will get very comfortable, she threatened. Naruto chuckled nervously at that threat. You know I won't lose, especially him. I will avenge Itachi, he said with a smirk. Training Ground 7. Everyone had heard that there was a mercenary hired who had challenged Sasuke to a fight. Some found it hilarious that some no-named mercenary would want to fight the great Sasuke Uchiha. While the smart people were wondering who this mercenary was and why would he want to fight Sasuke of all people. So here they were, Councilman, Genin, Chunin, Jonin and even Anbu, you name it. Everyone was here waiting for the match between the 2 fighters. Sasuke was stood in the middle of the field waiting for this no-named loser that actually thought could beat him, and Uchiha, what foolishness. So anyone know who challenged Sasuke to a fight? Hiba asked the group. Who knows? All I've heard is that Tsunade-sama had hired some outside help. Choji replied. Whoever it is, can't beat Sasuke-kun. Sakura said, which got some to groan at her in irritation. I wouldn't be so sure. I was able to pick up some extremely high chakra levels before, much higher than Sasuke-san. Neji said, who was a little shaken by the power he felt earlier. Maybe it's Naruto, Hiba suggested. Why would it be Naruto? He was banished. Hana, his sister, said. Well, last week we ran into Naruto when we went to Takigakure. Sakura said sadly, remembering the look he gave her. Everyone who didn't know looked on in shock. You met him. What happened? Yugao asked. Well, Kisame was about to get away, who was after Taki's Jinchuriki when wood grew out of the ground restraining him. Apparently Naruto can use Mokuden Jutsu. Then Kisame warned him that Akatsuki would be after him soon. He was able to escape after that. Naruto told Kakashi to tell Tsunade-sama, 1 week. Maybe this is what he meant. Ino told everyone. So how Strahd? We don't know. We didn't see him fight really. Ten said. So, he's most likely facing Sasuke him. Ibiki asked. As long as it's a good match, I don't care. Enko said, who was stood by Kurenai. Sasuke wouldn't lose anyway, Kakashi said as he read Ika. Kurenai looked at Kakashi in disgust. Ever since she had heard of how he had neglected Naruto, she had started to think of him as trash. Still playing favorites. Kakashi shook his head. Nope, but I taught him everything he knows. Oh really? Wasn't he with Orochimaru for 3 years? Yugao asked, who was in her Anbu uniform without her mask. Kakashi looked at her with a frown behind his mask. That's beside the point. Sasuke is probably the strongest person here. Anyway, when the hell is he getting here? Soon growled out. Well, I doubt we have to wait long. Ten said, who was fingering a kunai. Sasuke wasn't listening to any of the other talking. He was thinking about whom he would have the pleasure of fighting and destroying. He was seriously hoping that it was Naruto, so he could humiliate him in front of everyone. It was at this time that Tsunade and Jiraiya appeared on the training ground looking happier than they had in years, which, well, confused everyone there as the Why wondered what could make them so happy. Tsunade-sama, what are we called here for? Shikamaru asked with a yawn. Ino sighed and slapped Shikamaru on the back of the head, startling him. Damn it, Shikamaru. The least you could have seemed interested and not yawn. They all then heard a male chuckle coming from by Tsunade, who was smirking. It seems you haven't changed, Ino-chan. The voice said. Ino looked closely and noticed the blonde hair that stuck up all over the place. And Naruto? She asked slowly, hoping it wasn't a dream. Naruto stepped forward, revealing himself completely. No one could bell. I have how much he'd changed from the midget, orange-wearing knucklehead that used to shout about being Hokage. Now this was a calm, collective man who looks to have seen a lot of battle. Ino, snapping out of her shock, moved so fast the Hiraishin looked jealous and found herself hugging Naruto so tightly that it actually shocked everyone. What's Naruto doing back here? Kiba asked, confused as hell, along with everyone here. We've hired Naruto as a mercenary, or we will after his fight to test his abilities. Tsunade said, who was curious about the hug as it made the two blondes closer than just friends. Wait a minute, Ten said. Naruto is the one meant to fight Sasuke. Yep, it was the best way to show what I'm capable of. Naruto said as he had just untangled himself from Ino, who was smiling brightly. Something no one had seen in years. Ino also noticed a red-headed woman stood on the other side of Naruto, making her along with many others wonder who the hell she is. So the Dobi returns, Sasuke said with a sneer. Naruto looked at him with a bored expression. I could say the same to you. Last I checked, you hated this village. Sasuke smirked. Things changed. After I killed Itachi, I decided to come back here. When he finished, no one sensed the anger in Naruto's eyes when he mentioned killing Itachi. Well, besides Jiraiya, that is, who seemed curious about the reaction, and Kagura, who winced. You know, I can't help but think you have some hidden motive. Certain Uchihas like yourself always were slimy bastards. Naruto said as he glared at the black-haired youth. I'd watch what you say if I was you. Sasuke growled out as he glared back at the blonde. Either way, we should get this match over and done with. HMPH, and here I thought this was going to be a challenge. Sasuke said with arrogance at seeing Naruto again. Naruto chuckled. There are things about me that would make you piss yourself, Sasuke-chan. He said mockingly, which pissed Sasuke off while causing some chuckles to go around. Naruto ni-san. Looking over to the group, he found Konohamaru, who was now taller than he was the last saw him. Now he stood at the height of about 5 featuring 6 if he had to guess. Hey Konohamaru, Naruto said, waving slightly. Did you finish that jutsu? Naruto asked with some hope, and was satisfied when Konohamaru gave a nod. Yep, it wasn't as hard as I first thought it would be. He said, grinning as he held out his right hand, and to everyone's amazement chakra started to gather there as it solidified, eventually forming a Rasengan, before he left it to dissipate. Not bad. Maybe when this is all over I'll teach some more. Naruto said, making Konohamaru giddy at having his boss teach him. Everyone else was shocked that Naruto had been teaching Konohamaru before he was banished, and what was more surprising was that it was the Rasengan of all things. It made it even more amazing when they saw how excited Konohamaru was at being taught by Naruto. So why have we all been called here? Kakashi asked, snapping out of his shock. Naruto looked over at Kakashi with a slight glare, confusing some. I've been asked by Tsunade to help with Akatsuki and Otogakure. Also, there are some people I wanted to see while I'm here. Besides, there are some things you all need to see and hear. Naruto said simply. After giving Ino, who was beside him, a small smile, Kagura gave him a good luck kiss, which was a little too intimate for some people there, who were curious and angry, but was shocked when Naruto returned it and walked to the middle of the trainee ground with a silly grin where Sasuke stood opposite him. Tsunade chuckled and stepped forward. Okay, Naruto Uzumaki is here so we can gauge his abilities against Sasuke Uchiha to see where he stands in rank. Are you two ready? Tsunade asked the two of them, who were getting NA stance while using Naruto's previous name since his heritage hadn't been revealed yet. Yup. HN. Well then, Hajime, Tsunade exclaimed, starting the match as she jumped back to stand with the others. Naruto and Sasuke just simply stared at each other, not moving an inch, waiting for the other to start off. Everyone else was anxious as hell as they knew this match would not end well, especially when it's between two people who have tried to kill each other in the past. Naruto flipped a kunai out and swung it at Sasuke, who repeated the action, throwing a kunai at Naruto's. However, as both kunai come in contact, Naruto's cut straight through Sasuke's one like a knife would cut through butter. Sasuke, seeing the danger, jumped out of the way to avoid from being cut through. Looking at where the kunai struck, he notices it had cut clean through a tree and split a rock in half that was behind it. Naruto chuckled at Sasuke's wide-eyed expression as he viewed what a single kunai could do. It's amazing what one can do with futon manipulation, is it not? Naruto asked rhetorically. How the hell did you do that? Sasuke demanded as he stared at Naruto's eyes with his own onyx-colored eyes. Naruto shakes his head at the Uchiha's stupidity. Didn't I just tell you? By adding futon to the kunai I am able to it's so sharp it will cut through anything. That is the greatest advantage of futon. Chakra. It can cut through anything given the time to train in it. Naruto explained simply. Sideline. Amazing. Asuma exclaimed at seeing such manipulation. What is it? Kurenai asked as she looked over at her male comrade. Asuma chuckled. Such a mastery over futon is practically unheard of. The only people I know who can achieve such a level as myself, and maybe Tamari of Suna. What's so difficult about that? Ino asked, confused. Futon is the most difficult element to master of all of them, given the fact that is the most dangerous and wild. It has always been difficult for someone to be able to control that and infuse it into a weapon to such a degree that it can slice through anything it comes in contact with. To be able to use nature manipulation such as that, the person must create an invisible extension of chakra that shapes into an edge that functions like the normal blade itself. You've seen nothing yet, Kagura said with a smirk, catching everyone's attention before the match. Battlefield. Sasuke snarled at Naruto and shot forward with incredible speed that surprised Naruto greatly. As Sasuke came close, he delivered an uppercut to Naruto, sending him up. Jumping up after him gave Naruto a strong combo to the chest, causing Naruto spit out some blood before he swing his foe. OT down on his stomach, forcing Naruto down to the ground. As Sasuke came back down, he yelled, Shishi Renden, as he slammed down on Naruto with his foot, causing a massive explosion. Sideline. Looks like Naruto's not getting up anytime soon, Ten said as she eyed the soon-to-be crater. You think that? Jiraiya paused as he pointed to the crater. Will stop Naruto? Jiraiya asked with a chuckle. Naruto has been beaten to within an inch of his life before and not passed out. What Sasuke just did was practically tickle him, he explained, while some looked saddened as they were reminded of what Naruto had gone through. Naruto is much stronger than he once was, Tsunade commented. How strong? Neji asked, curious at how much the blonde had grown. Jiraiya looked at him and noticed they were all looking at him. Stronger than me. I haven't won a fight with him in over a year now, he said, shocking them all completely. It wasn't a secret that Jiraiya was probably one of the most powerful shinobi to exist in his own right. And he admitting something like that was shocking, as they knew of his pride of being strong. Battlefield. Sasuke jumped back and looked at the dust cloud with a smirk on his face, believing he had beaten Naruto. Ha! This is as far as you have come, how pathetic. Oh, and why do you say that? Said a voice that was by his ear. Tilting his head slightly, he saw Naruto's face by his. He was unable to speak as he felt a stinging pain in his back as he was sent sailing across the training ground before smashing into a tree. Sasuke looked back to see Naruto's KNEE bent from the attack he had just received from the blonde. To think such an attack at close range with barely any space could be so powerful for it to send him across the ground. Sasuke slowly stood up and wiped the blood away that was dribbling down his chin. Not bad, Dobi, but you're no match for me, he said arrogantly, while Naruto chuckled. Sasuke activated his Sharingan, changing his eyes from the onyx to crimson red with 3 commas in each eye as he glared at Naruto. So the Sharingan finally comes out. I was wondering how much you still relied on that, Naruto said, smirking. Sasuke snarled as he flew through hand seals much faster this time. Kaden. Goryuka no Jutsu. Fire release. Great dragon fire technique. Out of Sasuke's mouth came a giant dragon made of fire with its mouth open, its teeth bearing down on Naruto as if he was its prey. Holding his hand up in a sign, Naruto called out, Sweden. Suryuden no Jutsu. Water release. Water dragon bullet technique, a giant drive. A gun of water formed out of thin air before it shot forward, yellow eyes gleaming as it met the fire dragon in the middle, creating an explosion of chakra that shook the earth as steam rose from the epicenter where a crater was now formed. Naruto started to focus chakra in his stomach before shouting, Futon. Rinkuden. Wind release. Drilling air bullet, a giant bullet of air shot out of his mouth. That went soaring at Sasuke, knocking any steam left away. Sasuke, seeing the attack, jumped out of the way, allowing the bullet to pass him where it blew many trees away as it made contact with the four saint, making everyone wide-eyed as they viewed the damage. Over a dozen trees had been blown away as well as the ground had been shredded. Sasuke jumped up high in the air and opened his mouth as he called forth his next jutsu. Raiden. Gion. Lightning release. False darkness, a bolt of lightning was summoned from the black-haired boy's mouth as it shot along the ground, ripping it apart, heading for Naruto, who stood calmly. Naruto looked as the lightning came closer, then back up at Sasuke, who was stationary. Jumping up himself, he held out his hands at Sasuke and said, Futon. Kami Orochi. We. ND release. Godly wind from the mountain, an almighty whirlwind shot from Naruto's hands and hit Sasuke point blank, blowing him into the forest, tumbling before he came to a stop at a tree. Naruto, seeing his jutsu work, flopped down on the ground again, ready for any counter-attack. Shit, what was that jutsu? Sasuke thought to himself as he hefted a tree off of him. Sideline. Ouch, that looked like it hurt. Choji said while munching on his chips. To think that Naruto could perform such jutsu with only one hand seal. Kakashi whispered in shock at his neglected ex-student. What about it? Lee asked, who was unfamiliar with most jutsu, given the fact he can't use them. Instead of Kakashi explaining, it was Asuma. The Suryuden no Jutsu is normally a jutsu that requires a total of 44 hand seals for it to be used at its full potential while needing a source of water. What Naruto just did hadn't been seen since the Nadaime Hokage. He used the water molecules in the air to form the dragon while only using a single hand seal. If I didn't know any better, I would say he has mastered his elements to such a degree that it makes it possible for him to use almost any jutsu. Asuma said with a smile at seeing Naruto grown so much. Whoa, Hiba said softly at how strong Naruto could be. Just how the hell did he get so strong? Kakashi asked, shocked at how much the blonde had improved. Kage Bunshin. Jiraiya said simply. Kage Bunshin. Hinata asked, confused. Kage Bunshin has an amazing ability that can be a great advantage to anyone with high chakra levels like Naruto. Once a Kage Bunshin dispels, it transfers all knowledge it had received back to the original user. So you're saying that if Naruto had one clone dispelled, it would increase his training twice as fast? Kakashi asked, getting on to the idea. Precisely. Jiraiya exclaimed. How many clones can Naruto-san make? Shino asked. About 1,000 if he wanted. Jiraiya said in a nonchalant manner, making everyone wide-eyed at such a number. But if that's the case, then, Enko started. Then Naruto could get lifetimes worth of training fitted in. Kurenai finished for her friend. Battlefield. Naruto was about to go after Sasuke when he heard a shout of Chidori Iso. 1,000 birds sharp spear. Looking up, he saw a spear of lightning heading straight for him. Thinking quickly, he headed Hirinru and placed it in front of him and said, Heen. Flying swallow. Wind all of a sudden flew around the blade, enveloping it in a small vortex that extending the length of the blade. Naruto then held the sword horizontally as he swung it whilst calling out, Futon. Yuha Sho. Wind release. Beast wave palm. A massive wave of wind blew out from the blade, heading straight for the spear of lightning as it cut it in half, causing it to disintegrate into nothing. The wave of wind didn't stop there, however, as it carried on into the forest where it started to cut down trees. Sensing danger from the right, he dropped down to a crouch as a sword flew over his head, cutting off a few stray hairs. Naruto looked up to see Sasuke with his Chikudo still in swing. Seeing the opportunity, Naruto swung his legs in an arc, hoping to catch Sasuke's feet. However, thanks to the Sharingan, Sasuke was able to see the movement, giving him time to flip back, dodging the sweep by millimeters. Sasuke held out his sword at Naruto, who was standing up fully now. Kusanagi no Tsurugi. Chidori Katana. Kusanagi sword. 1,000 birds katana. Raiden chakra suddenly flew down the blade of Sasuke's SWO. Road enveloping it completely, causing sparks to fly off of it as he held it up high. Naruto charged forward at Sasuke with his sword held high as he jumped into air. Sasuke, seeing the attack, struck forward with his sword at Naruto's stomach, seeing it was vulnerable when Naruto suddenly phased from view, shocking Sasuke. Naruto then appeared on the left side of Sasuke with his sword still held high. As he swung down, Sasuke used his An's detection to spin around in time and held up his blade horizontally to block his opponent. As the blades met in their clash, Naruto had put enough force in the act to create a crater underneath Sasuke from the chakra output displayed by the two weapons. Sasuke swung his sword up, knocking Naruto away, to which he flipped in the air before landing in a crouch. Sasuke smirked as he eyed Naruto. "Is that all you got?" he asked arrogantly. "I didn't realize the Dobi would be able to control futon to such a degree. I have to hand it to him, he's good." Naruto looked up and smirked. "Not a chance," whilst thinking, "He's good with his sword, I'll give him that, but with Hyarinmaru abilities it shouldn't be a problem." Naruto stood up straight before falling into a stance and flying forward, practically gliding along the ground, kicking up dust along the way. As he got close to Sasuke, he stabbed forward only for Sasuke to sidestep the attack, allowing the blade to pass his side. Sasuke then grabbed Naruto's wrist that held Hyarinmaru before he swung his foot, aiming for his head. Naruto, seeing the foot coming closer, knew he wouldn't be able to defend himself, so he did the next best thing. Twist his wrist slightly, he flipped over Sasuke's arm before swing his foot for his face that would no doubt connect. Sasuke was impressed with how Naruto got out of the attack but didn't expect for the roles to be reversed. Seeing no way out, he channeled Raiden through his chakra system before calling out, "Chidori Nagashi." 1,000 birds current lighten surrounded Sasuke completely, which attacked Naruto, causing him to be blown away from the force of the defensive jutsu. Naruto, as he was blown away, could feel the small jolts that traveled through his body, messing with his nervous system as his fingers kept twitching. As he hit the ground, he started to tumble before he placed the palm of his hands on the ground and flipped himself up into a crouch while keeping his head down to catch his breath and sort his body out. Sasuke looked at Naruto as his jutsu receded and smirked. "Give up, Dobi. You should know by now that you can never beat an Uchiha. You have to be an Uchiha to beat me." To everyone's confusion except the Sannin, who knew what was going to happen, Naruto started chuckling before it turned into full-blown laughter. "To beat you I have to be an Uchiha, do I?" Naruto said as he lifted his head up with his eyes closed. "Then I don't think I'll have a problem," he said as he opened his eyes, and to everyone's shock, especially Sasuke's, there was a fully matured Sharingan in both of the blonde's eyes. "Sideline. Holy shit," Kiba exclaimed, stunned by the little event. "How?" Sakura asked as she was unable to say more. Jiraiya chuckled at how Naruto had shown his bloodline. "Naruto's an Uchiha, simple as that. But why wasn't anyone ever told?" Hinata asked. "Only me, Jiraiya, and the elders knew who Naruto's father was. We didn't know who the mother was, as his father wouldn't tell us. We only knew he had the Sharingan for a few years now." "Be quiet, I think he's going to tell us," Ino said excitedly. Even she didn't know of all this. Battlefield. Sasuke stared wide-eyed as his own Sharingan eyes stared into the blonde's in confusion. "How the hell do you have the Sharingan?" Sasuke asked as he was confused as fuck. "I'm an Uchiha," Naruto said as he stood up and stabbed Hyarinmaru into the ground before leaning on it with his hand. "I found out a couple days after I was banished. I had been on my way to Wave Country when I was attacked by bandits. Now usually it would have been easier to kill them, but I was starved and had nothing to drink for days. At some point during the fight a bandit was ready to cleave me in two. When everything slowed down to the point that it was like time stopped, using it to my advantage, I killed them using what was left of my strength. Later on I had found a lake where I checked myself in, and to my shock I found the Sharingan staring back at me. At first I was happy, it meant I had a family, I knew where I was from, and that I belonged to a clan. Then I realized they were all dead. I would never meet my parents no matter how much I wished I could." "Who were your parents?" Sasuke asked curiously. "I'm getting there, there's more first," Naruto said as he sighed before resuming again. Now that I had the Sharingan, I was able to learn so much easier, able to understand so many things, and luckily it helped me with my knowledge. Towards the end of the first year of my banishment, I ended up in Kumogakure, where I started to train in my Raiden Jutsu, and luckily enough for me I found a couple fellow Jinchuriki that helped me in my training as well. That's how it went for the next couple years. Not stop training all over the elemental countries. For a couple years I even trained at MT Myobokuzen, where I learnt much. Then it came down to the end of the 4th year where I met my last sensei. Itachi Uchiha. What? Itachi was your sensei? Are you insane? He killed our CL. Sasuke was stopped from saying any more as he found a fist planted in his face that sent him skidding back. Everyone was shocked that Naruto was taught by Itachi, but was brought to confusion when he punched Sasuke because he insulted Itachi. If it wasn't for Itachi, I don't know where I'd be right now, Naruto said angrily before calming himself down. Anyway, when I first met him I was going to fight him until I noticed he wasn't wearing the Akatsuki cloak. When I asked him what he wanted, he simply told me he wanted to teach me and that I deserved to know the truth about everything. At that the elders started to sweat as Naruto cast a gaze at them, something Tsunade and Jiraiya picked up on which confused them. Itachi decided to tell me who my parents were. My father was one of the greatest shinobi ever to exist, Namikaze Minato aka the Yondaime Hokage. To be honest, at first I was pissed. The guy who had cursed me to live a life of hell was my father. Then I had to understand that he done it because he couldn't ask someone else's family to do it. What he didn't count on was this village stabbing him in the back and fucking his last wish and doing as they please like the scum they are. He said with such distaste that those who treated him bad flinched terribly. Especially now they knew who his father was. Naruto's friends were shocked at the boy's heritage. As of yet, they couldn't believe that the Dobi was an Uchiha and the son of the Yondaime Hokage. Chi was like irony was taking its toll on everyone today. Then came my mother. I truly wish I could meet her. I knew I would love her dearly. When I was a baby she had to give me up for my own protection for the Uchiha clan. My mother was called Uchiha Makoto. Sasuke stumbled back in shock. Naruto was his brother. All this time he had tried to kill his own brother. How fucked up in the head was he? When I was told the truth I was pissed, not at Itachi or my parents, but the Sandaime, the man I thought of as a grandfather, and for years he lied to me straight to my face. I had begged, pleaded with the man, but all he said was that he found me in the forest after the Kyuubi attack, no sign of parents whatsoever, leading me to believe I had been abandoned by them. It didn't help when I found out I had the Kyuubi sealed in me. I had thought it all made sense. Why would any parent want a demon for their child? If the Sandaime was alive when I found out, I would have made what Orochimaru did look like child's play. He spoke with such anger that everyone flinched at how betrayed he felt, especially the two Sannin. They were only glad the Sandaime was already dead, because they knew Naruto would have unleashed Kyuubi if he really wanted. Does all this mean we're brothers? And what do you mean protect you from the clan? No, we're not brothers, we're cousins. My mother only had 2 sons. Me and Itachi. Itachi was my brother. He said, getting Sasuke to become confused. Sideline. Oh my god, gasped Kurenai, who was in shock that Naruto's brother was Itachi. I had, as he too was shocked at the revelation. I only knew the father. Minato was very secretive, Jiraiya said as he gazed at the ground for not being there for Naruto. Minato had said he was having a son, but he never mentioned who the mother was. He said something about doing it to protect her, and it all makes sense now. To think Naruto has such a legacy, and yet this village had thrown him away. Hiashi, who was stood by Hinata along with Hanabi, said while shaking his head at the foolishness of the elders. Yep, you people really fucked up, Kagura said with a sad sigh. Battlefield. But who are my parents? He asked as he looked down in confusion. Naruto looked at him in sadness, knowing what it must be like just finding out your entire life had been a lie. Your mother was Uchiha Hitomi, she was my mother's sister. And your father was Uchiha Shinji. Your parents died fighting the Kyuubi. My mother, knowing you would be an orphan, decided to have you be adopted into the family. Sasuke looked up as if realizing something. That was why Fugaku always looked down on me and paid attention to Itachi, his real son. But what did you mean keep you safe? Yes, and what I meant by keepy Keeping me safe from the Uchiha clan was that if people found out my mother had an affair with the Yondaime, it would cause disaster for everyone. My mother was only married to Fugaku out of some political marriage. Itachi was the end result of that. If the Uchihas found out about me, they would have had me killed along with my mother for the betrayal. Given the fact I had the Kyuubi, they may have done something worse than kill me. My mother did the next best thing considering she couldn't protect me herself, so she had Itachi do it as a mission. He was my guard for years, where we became like brothers. Only I didn't know just how much like brothers we were at the time. But Itachi killed all of the clan. I don't understand. Yes, he did, but he had no choice in the matter. He said as he glanced at the elders. And he had to admit they had balls for just standing there defiantly. For years the Uchiha clan had been prosecuted for the Kyuubi attack, which caused Fugaku to become angered and wanting more power. He had made plans to take over the village by making a revolt against the Sandaime. Itachi had been playing a double agent for the Uchiha and Hokage the entire time. It eventually came down to the point where the Hokage and elders had to order Itachi to wipe out the Uchiha clan. Itachi had agreed, if my mother and you would live. Apparently he wanted the three of us to be able to be a family, but that went to shit. On the same night when Itachi had finally gotten to Fugaku, he had found the bastard with his sword driven through my mother, killing her because she was against the plan. So Itachi killed him with happiness. At that point you had shown up and you know the rest. Sasuke stood there processing everything that had been told to him by his cousin. Me led a bit at finally having some family left. Well, that lasted until Naruto's next words. And then you killed my brother. Naruto said with hate in his voice aimed at Sasuke, who stepped back in shock. Sideline. Oh shit. Kakashi swore, surprising everyone since he never swears. What is it, Kakashi-sensei? Sakura asked. Naruto is going to kill Sasuke. Guy surmised. What? Why would he do that? Ino asked, confused. Shikamaru sighed and said, troublesome. It's obvious. Naruto and Itachi were brothers, not Sasuke and Itachi, and you all know what happened when Sasuke and Itachi fought. Yeah, Sasuke killed Itachi. Oh. Hiba said as he realized where he was going. Sasuke killed Naruto's only remaining family, something he had always wanted. Kurenai said as she looked down in sadness. Yes, we may have to intervene. Neji said as he too understood. Good luck with that, Jiraiya said with a scoff. What do you mean? Hinata asked. For all I care, Sasuke deserves to die, if you expect me to jump in and save him. Forget it, he said as he looked away while Tsunade chuckled. You're just afraid of Naruto because he can beat you, she said with a snicker as Jiraiya grumbled before. She turned back to the match and watched as Naruto's eyes were filled with hate, causing her to sigh in sadness. Throughout the conversation, Kagura was truly wondering if Naruto was going to kill Sasuke, that she gave a fuck honestly. She would only intervene if Naruto was about to die, and knowing his strength, that wouldn't happen. Battlefield. What? Sasuke said in shock. Naruto chuckled darkly as he plucked Hirinmaru from the ground. Don't you remember? You killed Itachi, my brother, because he killed the clan which got what it deserved. Now, he paused as he lifted his sword up as RGY chakra started swirling around Naruto as he held his sword vertically to his chest. It's my turn to be the Avenger, he exclaimed as the power escalated. Sasuke's eyes wide in shock, realizing what Naruto meant. He was going to get revenge for taking his only family away. Soten Ni's ace. Hirinmaru. Sit upon the frozen heavens. Hirinmaru. As soon as the words left his mouth, a massive spic of chakra exploded outwards, causing ice to spike out from the ground, as well as causing clouds to gather above him from the output of the power. To everyone's surprise, Hirinmaru extended slightly in length, and gained a crescent-shaped blade attached to its hilt by a long metal chain. Everyone could feel the power coming from the sword and was startled by its power. Tenten though looked ready to have an orgasm from the display of the sword, and everyone knew she had a fetish for swords. Did you know, Sasuke, that the reason I was banished was because the elders were afraid of the threat of Akatsuki? They would care about their own asses before anyone else in this village. And now they need me back because Akatsuki are after them either way, he said as everyone turned to see the elders looking away in shame. It was then everyone realized how corrupt the council had been. If it wasn't for people like Tsunade and Jiraiya, I would have never come back and I'd had let the village burn. I have no love here anymore. He said, shocking everyone once more. All of the clan heads had realized how much they had fucked up in the village. Making an enemy out of the Uchihas all the time, and now the son of the Yondaime. You would honestly let this village be destroyed? Sasuke asked in shock at the blonde-haired man that held his now transformed blade in a stance. Why not? What has this village ever done for me? It has taken everything away from me. Treated me as if I was the Kyuubi. You know how it is, karma's a bitch. He said as he brought Hirinmaru in a reverse grip with the blade facing backwards as he focused chakra in the blade. Side line. He would actually let us be killed? Hinata asked, shocked. Ino however shook her head. Naruto-kun wouldn't let that happen. He said the village, not its people. But could you blame him really? I guess your logic is correct. Shino said impassively. This village has caused Naruto-san's life to be hell, far worse than any of us could ever understand. I'm surprised the pup hasn't snapped yet. Soon, Kiba's mother said, who stood by with the other clan heads. He has the will of fire. It's just a shame this village is so simple-minded. Tsunade said, smiling at Naruto, who looked like a god with his Sharingan active and his sword pouring out power, causing his coat and hair to blow in the wind. Battlefield. Swinging the sword forward in an arc, a wave of ice shot out from the tip that traveled along the ground at high speeds at Sasuke. Sasuke, seeing the attack, went wide-eyed at such a thing happening. Going through hand seals, he shouted. Kaden. Karyu Enden. Fire. Release. Fire Dragon Flame Missile. An incredible amount of fire was blown out of Sasuke's mouth, very much like a flamethrower that batted against the oncoming ice. Unlike in his fight against Haku, who used ice, the fire was now more concentrated to such an the side line were feeling it. Eventually the fire died down as the ice stopped where it was, but didn't melt much to his shock. Naruto smirked at the shocked looks of people. Like it, he's called Hirinmaru. This sword is a part of my soul, literally, and inside it is an ice dragon that allows me to work with it in defeating my enemies. And what's even more amazing is it allows me to control Suiten and Hyoten at will from the base of the sword in this form. I have to say I don't know where I would be without him. Everyone looked at the weapon in awe at the fact there is an ice dragon within it that is a part of Naruto's soul. Sasuke gulped at hearing that. With him being a Kaden and Raiden, it will be a difficult match. Then again, he has the Mangekyo Sharingan, which he doubted Naruto had. Sasuke smirked. This was going to be fun, even if Naruto wanted him dead. Jumping up, he put his hand at his mouth and shouted. Kaden. Goryuken no Jutsu. Fire Release. Great Dragon Fire Technique. A gigantic dragon shot out of the raven-haired boy's mouth that shot at Naruto, who jumped up himself and swung Hirinmaru forward, where a bright blue ice dragon came out of the tip of the blade before it shot towards the fire dragon. Both dragons made contact, creating a massive explosion of dust, fire and ice water all over the training ground, causing the spectators to put their arms up to cover their eyes while coating their feet with chakra to stay put from the result of the explosion. As the dust cleared, they were able to witness a decent-sized crater caused by the output of the attacks that were in the air. Now there was ice formed around the crater while slightly scorched, proof of just how dangerous those two attacks were. Side line. Isn't this getting out of hand? Sakura said, afraid for her teammate and ex-teammate. They need this, Shikamaru said with a yawn. What's that mean? Ten asked. This is a way for Naruto to prove himself, to prove he isn't a dead last anymore. And the fact that Naruto is an Uchiha will make Sasuke fight harder, which is what Naruto wants. Jiraiya explained. I don't understand, Sakura said, making many wonder if she was really the smartest kunoichi. Sasuke was underestimating Naruto the entire time, thinking he was just a lowly commoner in his eyes. Now that he has found out his own heritage, along with Naruto's, he will take it more seriously. Won't they kill each other? Lee asked as he observed the destruction of the pair's attacks. Naruto wants to kill Sasuke for revenge, for taking his only family away from him, something he had never had before. Tsunade said, should we get ready to intervene? Shikaku asked. Who also knew this wasn't going to be pretty. Tsunade just shook her head, however. No, I don't think Naruto will kill him. I think he wants Sasuke to know he can kill him, a sort of warning. Everyone seemed to understand as they looked back to the Uchihas. Battlefield. Naruto and Sasuke both dropped down to the ground softly. Upon touching the ground, both Uchihas shot forward with swords in front ready to attack. Both Sharingans were spinning like crazy, analyzing each other's speed, strength and trying to predict where they were going to attack, but the both of them were having a hard time following each other at the moment, considering they were equal, making it all the more difficult. Both swords clashed again like before, only this time the raiden that flown down Sasuke's katana was off as ice traveled over the blade from where Hirinmaru had struck. Snapping out of his shock, Sasuke back flipped out of the way, kicking Naruto in the stomach on the way, causing the blonde to stumble back. Naruto smirked at Sasuke, who was channeling Kaden chakra onto his sword, melting the ice that had formed along it. As you can see, Hirinmaru freezes everything it touches. Sasuke looked up and sneered. So that's your element, Hyoten? Naruto shook his head. Nope. I have all of the elements at my disposal, a gift Kyuubi you might say. Along with some of my own. Oh really? Sasuke asked sarcastically, not believing the blonde, who raised an eyebrow. Very well, I'll prove it to you then. Sheathing Hirinmaru, which reverted back to its sealed state, he ran through hand seals before stopping. Mokuden. Daijirin no Jutsu. Wood release. Great forest technique. To everyone's shock, when Naruto jerked his arm forward, it transformed into a giant tree that traveled along the ground, stabbing it every so often. Sasuke, who barely snapped out of his shock, jumped over the giant tree where it crashed down, where he stood picking up a lot of dust, a show of its strength. Sasuke looked down as he dropped down once more and landed on the wood that had implanted itself into the ground. So you can combine elements to make the sub-elements, he said as more of a statement. Naruto CK led as he once again started make more hand seals. I told you, didn't I? But you wouldn't listen. Landing on the last seal, he called out. Shoten. Shuriken Ranbu. Crystal release. Shuriken Wild D. Ants. Holding both hands out, crystal started forming around him in the shape of dozens of shurikens before launching at Sasuke, who gathered Raiden in his left hand before he swung it in an arc. Chidori Senbon. 1000 bird Senbon. Lightning in the form of Senbon shot out from his hand, striking each crystal shuriken with perfect accuracy. They didn't stop there, however, as they cut through them, carrying on to Naruto. Naruto, seeing the danger, formed a hand seal and called out. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Multiple shadow clone technique. 60 clones poofed into existence in front of Naruto, intercepting all of the Senbon attacks, leaving only 4 clones left, who stood a good distance away from each other, which put Sasuke on edge, knowing how unpredictable Naruto was. All 4 clones held out their hands, where a ball of flames appears while slowly growing in size, before they took up a large area. Simultaneously, all 4 clones shouted out. Kaden. Kan Hekigan no Jutsu. Fire Relaya. Say. Flame burst sphere. All clones thrust their hands forward, which sent the 4 balls at Sasuke, who eyes widened in shock at the jutsu. As the balls were growing in size, the real Naruto went through his own hand seals and shouted out his jutsu as the fireballs were sent forward. Futon. Atsugai. Wind release. Pressure damage. Naruto blew out a large tornado at the 4 fireballs, which merged him all together, further creating a raging inferno that set trees on fire nearby and scorched the ground. As the flames approached Sasuke, Naruto suddenly heard him shout out. Amaterasu. Illuminati. In heaven. To everyone's shock, black flames attacked the inferno, fighting against it before it finally overcame the red flames, wiping them out, the black flames vanishing later. Naruto looked at Sasuke and saw his eyes had morphed into appearance of 3 intersecting ellipses, looking like a red 6-petal flower over a black background. So you've gained Mangekyo Sharingan, him? Naruto asked, amused. Sasuke chuckled darkly. Of course I did. I gained it when I killed Itachi, he said, which made Naruto frown, putting everyone on edge, knowing that wasn't the right thing to say. As that's so, how about I show you mine then? He asked rhetorically as he shut his eyes before opening them to reveal a 3-sided pinwheel with a ring with 3 circular holes in it. Everyone was shocked at the new appearance completely. What is that? Sasuke asked, not understanding how Naruto's eyes had what looked to be 2 designs. This is the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. It's what someone attains when the why take their siblings' eyes as long as the 2 have gained the Mangekyo Sharingan. What? But how? Itachi had his eyes, said Sasuke, shocked and confused. You're wrong, they weren't his eyes. Those were our mother's eyes. When I met him he put me through a lot of training. Eventually he put me in Tsukuyomi to witness my mother's death, causing me to feel anger and loss, awakening the Mangekyo Sharingan. We had found out it was similar to Itachi's and was a ring with 3 circular holes in it. I trained in them for a long time, making me nearly blind. Itachi knew how to fix that and told me to take his eyes. At first I didn't want to, but he almost forced me, so I had them implanted in my eyes. Making both of our powers merge, creating something neither of us would ever expect. With it I gained such strength it was amazing. Itachi revealed to me that he had our mother's eyes, which she had gained the Mangekyo Sharingan from the betrayal of Fugaku. She had begged him to take them for the future. Surprisingly they held the same abilities as his old eyes, must have been in the blood or something. They are what Itachi fought with, and now with both mine and Itachi's eyes, I can have my revenge. He said as his eyes seemed to glow. Why would Itachi give you his eyes? Sasuke asked with a frown. Naruto looked at Sasuke as if he was an idiot. He wanted me to carry on the Uchiha clan, to become a real clan. Not one full of arrogant assholes like the old one. I will actually restart the clan how it is meant to be. Unlike someone, how is your whole rebuild my clan plan going on anyway? Still running from all of the women coming on to you. Sasuke sneered at that. Why would I want weak woman to restart my clan with? He asked angrily, and then again it wasn't so much a question. Naruto chuckled at him while shaking his head in disappointment. What makes someone strong, huh? Is it their physical strength? Mental strength? What is strength in you, book? What would you know? Sasuke snarled at him. Sasuke smirked darkly. Like your mother and Itachi? He asked rhetorically. Now that set Naruto off the deep end, whose eyes seemed to glow eerily, making Sasuke kind of regret what he said. Shame it was too late. Sideline. When I said Naruto will not kill Sasuke, just make him know he can. Tsunade started as she got nods around. Forget that. Naruto is going to kill him. She finished, getting wide-eyed looks from everyone. Kagura chuckled darkly. Oh yeah, he's a goner. Why? Sakura asked idiotically. Ino looked at her as if she was an idiot. Are you stupid? Sasuke just insulted Naruto's mother and brother, the brother Sasuke killed. Get your head out of Sasuke's ass and actually think about other people. She said, shocking many since they knew they were like sisters. What? Why are you defending Naruto? Sakura asked, shocked. Ino just smirked and said the one thing that nearly made them pass out, while making Kagura smirk more. I love him. Sideline. You bastard. I'll kill you. Opening his eyes wide he yelled, Amaterasu. Illuminating heaven, black flames, more than Sasuke used, shot out towards Sasuke, whose eyes wide in shock as Naruto didn't even look. It was bothering him. Since for him the attack drains him slightly. Sasuke, seeing the danger, knew he had to retaliate. There was just one problem. Sasuke's eyesight deteriorate unlike Naruto's. Amaterasu. Illuminating heaven, Sasuke's own black flames attacked Naruto's as they started battling for dominance. The spectators couldn't help but feel a little scared as the flames grew larger, trying to overpower the other. Looking over at Sasuke, they noticed his eyes starting to bleed. Looking at Naruto, he didn't even have a bead of sweat running down his face. He just held a look of concentration. Just as the black flames were about to overrun Sasuke, a massive blast of chakra exploded from him, blowing the flames back along with the ground underneath him, shielding everyone's view of him. When the dust cleared, it revealed Sasuke, who was surrounded by a large spectral figure. On its left forearm was a bow doubling as a shield. In the right hand was an arrow. You'll lose now, Dobi. You should have learnt you could never beat me. Naruto looked at the ethereal figure that surrounded Sasuke, towering over everything in the shape of a knight, as the crossbow on its left forearm was aimed at him with an overly large ethereal arrow placed in its loading spot, ready to fire. You think your Susanoo can defeat me? Though I have to say, I'm impressed. To be able to activate it is not easy whatsoever. Shouldn't you use your Susanoo? Sasuke asked as the ethereal figure around him shimmered. What makes you think I even have it? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Well, you were trained by Itachi and you have the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. It's obvious you would have it, so bring it out. Naruto chuckled as he looked at Sasuke in amusement. I don't need that to defeat you, I have my own way. He said as he flew through hand seals. Shoten. Sushoheki Hachi no Jin. Crystal Release. Jade Crystal Wall 8th Formation. The entire area around Sasuke was suddenly encased in a massive prison of crystal, stopping Sasuke from moving whatsoever. However, before anything else could be done, a crack appeared in the crystal before an oversized ethereal arrow was blown through the crystal and hitting the shocked Naruto in the chest, throwing him back, pinning him to a tree, making him go limp. Naruto-kun. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.